Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I'm Hamza Idris. In 2022, the Northern Elders Forum asked former President Muhammadu Buhari to resign as president over his alleged failure to guarantee the security of Nigerians. However, 2 years after, and even though short of asking him to resign, the Yoruba group, the Afenifere, had also taken a swipe at their kinsman, President Bola Tinubu, over what they describe as severe turbulence pervading the economy 1 year into his administration. The Yoruba group described as illogical the Tinubu government's belief that subsidy removal and tax increases will revive the economy. The group believes that most of the policies put in place by Tinubu and his team are not working because Nigerians are now poorer. The Afenifere position is coming on the heels of critical assessment of the administration's 1 year in office, which shows skyrocketing cost of living, galloping inflation, and fall of real income. The Afenifere also frown at what it called reckless spending by government, leading to massive devaluation. It is against this backdrop that we will be engaging with Professor Uche Uwaleke, Professor of Finance and Capital Market at the Nasarawa State University, KP. He is also former Commissioner of Finance in Imo State. We also have in the studio a data analyst, Olufemi. Olufemi is also the Insight lead, Dataphyte. The two personalities will reflect on Tinubu's handling of governance so far and what future holds for Nigeria. Before the conversation, here are some tidbits. Rivers State High Court, sitting in Port Harcourt, has declared the seats of the 25 lawmakers who defected from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressive Congress, APC, vacant, pending the determination of a suit before it. The court also ordered the Right Honorable Martin Amaewhule to stop parading as the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly and barred the 24 lawmakers who are all anti-Siminalayi Fubara, the governor of the state, from posing as lawmakers in the state. And on a sad note, 2 soldiers have been reportedly killed by unknown gunmen enforcing the sit-at-home order on Thursday in the southeast, precisely in Abia State. The military men were attacked at Obikabia Junction in Aba by over 15 masked gunmen and then also burnt their patrol vehicle. A trendy video shows the assailants shooting sporadically before setting the military van ablaze. It is now time to take a short break, and when we return, the conversation commences. Don't go away. Of course, Prof, welcome to our studio once again.
Thanks so much, Hamza.
Oluseyi, we are happy having you.
Thank you very much.
And a happy 1 year anniversary.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course, before we go to the tidbit, Prof, let me start with you. Nigerians are not happy. When you look at Twitter or X, Instagram and all that, they said, is the new national anthem just the anniversary gift for Nigerians? Is it an anniversary gift for you? Or you are also taken aback by combined session launching?
Well, I wasn't taken aback, even though I didn't see it coming. The speed with which the entire thing was concluded. But Hamza, I must also tell you that it is something that I prefer.
What?
Yes,
Bro,
yes.
We're live.
Yes, we're live. I prefer it over the current one, the old national anthem.
Okay.
And that's because for me it brings back fond memories. That's the anthem I knew, way back.
Because you recited.
Yes, I'm in primary school. Yes, I did. And if you also look at the wordings, the wordings elicit a lot of, in me, some sort of feeling, a patriotic feeling. If you look at the first stanza, it says, though tribe and tongue may differ, okay, in
but are we not chipping in ourselves, talking about tribe?
No, that's another conversation altogether. But it says that, yes, we come from many ethnic groups. Despite the diversity that's in brotherhood we stand, if you... the third stanza particularly strikes me, the one that says, O God of all creation, okay, grant us this one request. Okay, help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed. Okay, so if you look at all that, the wordings, even the second stanza, says the flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice.
But some say that green, white, green is now red, black, red.
No, whatever it is, as I said,
you prefer
the wording, yes, I prefer it. I don't mind it.
You also recited it?
No.
Okay, are you on the left or on the right?
I think
in the middle.
I don't see a difference between the two. I don't see a need to go back. I don't see anything lacking in the message of the one he sang while he was in the primary school and the one I sang when I was in primary school. I think both evoke a feeling of patriotism, of service, both prayers to God. The second stanza of this one, O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youths the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow and living just and true.
You took time to cry me.
Great lofty heights attain to build a nation. So we're talking about nation building. This one talks about it. So I think I don't see any superiority between the two. The only difference I see is, I think, as I won't say a failed poet, I think the other ones had a rhyme scheme. The one you sang, I think the new one doesn't have a rhyme scheme.
Have you stumbled on the video, a trendy video of Tinubu? Yeah. They say it was in 2022 when he said if he had his way, he will go back to the all. They said that internet doesn't lie and doesn't forget. It lies, in some instances, even though it is people who influence, but it doesn't forget. We all descended on the National Assembly, but we can now see where the whole message is coming from. Is it that the president is not a listening president? Because I don't know, Prof, you will say a word before you move on, but I want you to say it. The majority of Nigerians, I don't know, you mind data. Those who were against this, it appears they were larger in number compared to those who endorsed the change.
The change?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the adults, like Prof,
yes,
they are a minority now.
Yes.
So you have younger people. I called home this later in the day today, and I asked my wife, have you guys, the children, she's in the educational sector, I said, did the students sing the National Anthem today? And she said, they don't know it. So it happened just overnight. You didn't even give them time to learn it. So to these little children, it will look unpopular because this is what they've known all their lives, and to people. But I don't see any difference within the two, actually.
Okay.
And it's not,
but Prof, Nigerians are now praying, on social media. They let them not say that they spend 1 trillion to now teach people how to recite the euro.
No, I don't think it will come to that. I think I've read the National Orientation Agency, coming up to say, people should learn it and schools should begin to teach. This time it's now the new national.
Okay, they will not spend that money.
Yes,
but is it a distraction, Prof?
No,
because many believe that you can see.
Mm.
And on a lighter note,
yes,
we expected the president to speak out yesterday. He didn't, and after that short, the social media went gaga, everyone.
Yes.
And, pundits believe that government has achieved its aim because they have, people are not talking about, okay, what is there for us, as a 1 year gift.
Yes.
Because people's attention, were completely taken to, discuss the National Anthem.
Well, for me, I told you, I welcome it. For me, it's positive distraction.
Okay, positive distraction.
Yes.
Okay, now in Abia, yes, Shay, 3 military operatives were killed today, and it's like blood is becoming much cheaper than water in Nigeria now. Where are we getting it right?
I think there is a problem with the psyche of the nation and of its people. Also, I think I read in Gombe also, 2 little boys, teenage, 12 and 13, they had their hands amputated. I saw the picture, and I was wondering, who are the people who did this? The person who took the cutlass to cut the ends of?
Well, the other one, we are still working on this. So they say it's around 20 or 21.
Okay.
But the figure, you know, I mean, the age.
But I saw the other.
Yeah.
I saw
and
one.
they said he actually stole something.
Whatever.
And then in order to punish him, they now, you know,
incapacitated.
Yeah, no, they tied him, and after some time, you know, if there is no blood flow,
then it
so
loses.
they now had to cut.
This something. So, when I drive, sometimes I feel like parking. You are just trying to escape somebody who is behaving irrationally, and then as you are trying to escape that, another one. It's like, what's going on around? So, violence, irrationality, it's everywhere. You could feel it. It's just worse in some places than other places. And I think that from the way we look at correlations, I think that people need to be attended
and
to.
That's amateur video in Anambra.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I don't know why. I don't think it's necessary. Those people were not provoking them. I don't see why they would do this just because you want to do a sit at home. I think this is needless. It's unnecessary, and I just think that we all need to just we need something that makes us become more human and less violent and a little bit irrational. So. There's nothing to be happy about. A soldier, people protect.
So you see that one? He has been injured.
Killed. So, I mean, people who are supposed to be defending the country, and I mean, if you hear of a boom now here, all of us will hide. You expect the policeman to go out. Even they have guns, but even if somebody gave you a gun and say, there are some people who shooting there, go out and...
Only the journalists. Some of us move in there. Yes, Prof, what is your take on this now?
It's condemnable.
Okay.
It's unacceptable. I watched the horrible video in two locations in the southeast.
IBR.
The one you saw is in Enugu State, area, and then the other one in Aba. As I said, is condemnable, and I think the governors in the southeast should begin to also think of what to do to permanently address this ugly situation.
Yeah, and on a lighter note, and finally on our tidbit is Rivers, Shey. You saw a high court there. They said, okay, those anti-Puminalai Pubara should stop parading themselves. Is it maybe a light at the end of the tunnel? Because it is believed that parliamentarians, they cross carpet with impunity. I mean, today you are in LP, tomorrow APC, and then it is clearly stated that unless there is crisis in your party, by the time you cross carpet, you lose your... Yeah, so is it... anyway, I don't know whether you're a politician or you have...
What I'll say is governance has been turned into a circus show. Our politicians are distant from governance, and so sometimes people don't even care. They're not interested in whether it's
Siminalai
or Wike or where. Just govern, just do the basic things. I mean, the way things happen in court injunctions, you have someone saying they are right, another court will tell you that they are wrong. So we don't even know what is going on. But for me, because I'm a politician in a way, we are all politicians, but I'm not that. I'm not into party politics, as it were. But I think people should just focus on governance and stop all this charade.
Exactly.
That's what
Prof, yes. I always like taking the financial matters, to your end. Is there any direct impact of some of these things we are witnessing to governance and by extension service delivery to the electorate?
Absolutely, absolutely. Of course, you can imagine what is happening now in Rivers in terms of the bills that need to be passed. Okay, you see, there's a reason that you don't have persons or names of aspirants on the ballot boxes. What you have, what you find there are party logos, okay? And that's because of the constitutional provision that it is a party that, brings forth, the candidates. We don't have independent candidates here in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So a situation in which somebody gets elected on the platform of a political party, and then the next day the person is defecting to another party, of course the Constitution frowns at it. So, and that's why in this matter, I would always, allow the courts, let the courts decide.
All right. Now let's move to the topic of the economics, governance, 1 year after. In our introductory party, we said they are fairly peri. We don't want to profile, but we made a comparison. It's like every leader is now facing challenges, even in the home front, because of course they didn't say Tinubu should resign, but they said, removing fuel subsidy without having the shock absorbers to cushion the effect has plunged Nigerians into deep hell. Are you with them, Prof?
Well, let's even provide to be able to answer that question. Let's provide some sort of background. Hamza, you recall that prior to even the presidential election, during the campaigns,
yes,
now virtually all the leading candidates at the time were talking about fuel subsidy removal. I also recall they were also talking about unification of exchange rates, removing the multiple exchange rate system we had at the time. So these were the two major reforms, and you find this virtually in all the manifestos of the leading candidates. So it would appear that at that time there was been a consensus that fuel subsidy needed to go. Okay, so the president now came and actually now gave effect to that. But again, remember that I always say this, that the removal of the fuel subsidy was actually done by the previous administration, not this administration. And that's because if you look at the 2024 budget, there was no provision for subsidy between July and December. So subsidy was meant to end in June. They provided just 3 trillion. So there was none for July to December. So what that tells you is that Tinubu simply came to implement it, because the alternative would have been for him to go and also look for, money, to borrow money to continue to, pay subsidy. But he chose not to do that.
But Prof, people are contending that even if there was no provision for that, there was also no provision to refurbish his mansion at the Doldrums barracks, that of the vice president. There was no provision to provide vehicles for the first lady, but they did a environment or another budget altogether to accommodate that. Now, 1 year after, here we are.
Yes,
is there fairness in the
Yes, I agree with you. You see, of course you can't take away the need to prioritize when you're having resources are scarce. You need to prioritize your spending. Okay, there's no doubt about that. But the point I'm making is that even the idea of talking about compensation schemes before removal of fuel subsidy, again, these are things that the previous administration ought to have worked out, before completely removing it. These things were not done. Okay, where I tend to fault the administration, fault in quotes, is having come in, having seen the situation. Okay, maybe he would have also taken some time to, study the situation before, going full throttle with respect to the fuel subsidy removal. But let us be fair too, fuel subsidy was removed before, he came into office.
All right, Shay, what will you say on this? Because it's like you tried to analyze the 1 year by, bringing out some statistics, like the one I have now by your organization, Dataphyte, right? As you said, the real GDP rate showed an increase in the second and third quarter in his first year in office, but a decline in the first quarter of 2024. You made a comparison with other leaders. The real GDP growth rate in the first 2 quarters of Nigeria's presidents, 2007 and 2014, meaning theirs was better, right?
Yeah, of course. better than the previous administration, but not as good as the Yerodua and Goodluck.
Okay, and you got the report from the CBN and, of course, NBS. What is the implication of this now?
So what it means is this. We can talk about the GDP, I think the way I've explained it in other fora.
Yeah,
is this.
And we have it displayed on our screen.
So, like I said, the way the president is running the economy is to create wealth at for the country, but he was prioritizing wealth, but at the expense of welfare. So,
okay, wealth at the expense of welfare. Okay.
So that's just the issue. Now, let me take what the professor was talking about on removal of oil subsidy, for instance. Now, what you see is that when you remove subsidy, since you remove subsidy now, there is more money at the FAC level for the federal, the state, and the local governments to spend. So there is more revenue now, so to say, to spend, because they were using almost half at a point, almost 80% even to pay for subsidies. Now they don't have, the people are now bearing the cost, and they now have more money. So what is going on is this: the people are producing more output. This is real output, not just a nominal output. It's not just the monetary value. It's not inflation. Inflation is not showing it. So it is real value. The country is having more production. But the problem is this: why this is not, we are not going to laugh at this, we're not going to smile at this increase in GDP or output or production, is that this production is being done by people whose wages have been depleted. If you are earning 200,000 at May 29, by a month later, looking at the inflation rate, probably that has reduced to, the worth of that has reduced to probably 150,000 or one. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it's even much more than that. That's just the average.
Because if you compare it, maybe May 2023, May 2024, it has gone down by maybe 3/4.
Yeah. So, and it has more effect on you living in Abuja than someone living in the village. So we are just saying on the average. So when we say 44%, 34% inflation rate, we're just saying on the average. To some people, they are feeling it more than others, but that's just an average you're talking about. So the problem is not about there's more production, but who are the people who produce this? People who have depleted. You have reduced the real value of their wages, of their wealth, their worth, monetary worth. You have also reduced the workforce, because unemployment rate, even though they have rebased the calibration, the way they measure unemployment now.
Yeah, I can see you said the unemployment rate has gradually increased within the quarters of Tinubu's COP.
Yeah, so
the unemployment Q4.
Yeah, it's 5% now.
Okay.
You know, going by the way we now measure it, it's just people who have not worked for 1 hour in a week. So those are the people. But even at that, even though we have changed the way we measure it, it's still higher. So you are saying now, what you mean is that, let's say we are 10 people in this room, isn't it? And we used to produce 200 mangoes, and we are how many? 10. So what has happened is now that we have sacked 5 people. Let's assume 5 people are gone. We are now left with 5 people. The 5 people that are left, you have reduced their wages, the worth of their wages and now
they are working more hours.
They are now working. They are not working more hours, and they are now producing, instead of 200 mangoes, they are now producing 300 mangoes. So when you see people shouting, "We are suffering, we can't breathe, life is hard," and all of that, what it means is that they are not only suffering, they are slaving. They are working. So at the end of the day, you now see that I say that he's running the economy like a businessman. Not a bad idea. It's just about philosophy. Conquer first, then care later. A businessman looks at how to make profit. It's when he now makes so much profit, then he now talks about how can I increase salary, but not the other way around. So that's the way he's running the economy.
Okay, maybe I should allow Prof to come in here. Is that the way to go? If you agree with what Uche said, more money at the federal, state, and local government level, even though it's not really crippling. And that's why the Attorney General is at the Supreme Court.
Okay, well, before then, let me even speak to this issue of growth. Okay, you can have growth, at the same time, you also find a situation in which people say they can't feel it, and that's when the growth is not inclusive. And growth is not inclusive when the quality of growth, is in question. Now, you can see what has happened between between the third quarter of last year and now. If you notice, last quarter of 2023, GDP actually went up by about 3.5. Okay, from 2.5 to about 3.5. Okay, even though it tanked now slightly to 2.98. Now, what has happened is that if you check the quality of that growth, if you disaggregate the growth rate, you now find that much of the growth, has come from the oil sector.
Correct.
Now, you also have within the services sector, you have the financial services. Okay, last quarter, financial services grew by over 32%. And then
because of taxing us.
Financial services dominated by banks, and then ICT. Now, you find that these sectors, oil, banks, okay, ICT, okay, in terms of employment elasticity, they have very low employment elasticity. They don't employ so many people. So even when they're growing, the effect doesn't trickle down. As opposed to agriculture and manufacturing. Agriculture and manufacturing are not doing well. The products that are not doing well. So, and that is why no matter how much you grow the oil sector, this is a sector that contributes about the last GDP growth rate figure, just 6.3% of GDP. And it's not employing up to 5% of the population. The same thing goes for the financial services sector. So by the time the growth is being powered by these, it's not inclusive. People can't still feel it. Yes. So the way to go is to ensure that the productive sectors, are also growing.
Like agriculture.
Agriculture contributes more than 20% to GDP. Manufacturing about 10% to GDP. But apart from that, these sectors, as I said, represent the real engine, of growth. If they are tanking, then you can be sure that everybody will be.
Yes, your other data, Shay, the cost of food increased steadily in the 1 year of Tinubu's administration.
Yeah.
Is it at the instance of the gains in ICT, banking, and all that? Because you all agree that banking, ICT, and all that, they are really growing.
Yeah.
But Prof now quickly said that on the flip side, manufacturing and agriculture, they're actually going down.
That's why you find you can see food inflation. I don't know whether they captured it here.
Yes.
Food inflation is over 40%.
Over 40%.
Okay, from the chart, it's over 40%. And just as he said, these figures are average figures. In some states, like Kogi, food inflation is around 49%. Okay, and why is food inflation that high? Again, you can link it with what's happening in the agri sector. Agri sector is not growing.
Then is there a tendency to arrive at, let's say, they misprioritize? Because if the oil and gas sector is increasing, now manufacturers can't afford to buy diesel. People can't power their generators in their farms and all that. Can we say we're actually digging our graves by allowing the other sectors to breathe freely at the detriment of other sectors that will have direct impact on our livelihood? Yes, Prof.
Oh, yes. You see, I've always talked about we need to do something about the structure of our economy. An economy where the services sector is contributing, over 52-54%, of GDP. You now find the real sectors, okay, as I said, growing at a very slow pace in terms of growth. So this imbalance is partly why we are having the problem we have, and you see it permeating, showing up in all the macro indicators. Inflation, I've just told you, part of what is driving inflation in this country, a major factor driving inflation in this country, is the supply side, linked to inadequate output in terms of food. Okay, again, you can also link it to insecurity, transport challenges, and so on. So for me, they are more of supply side factors than even saying you have so much money in circulation, the issue of money supply, which is why the central bank has been jacking up interest rates. If you also notice, the GDP growth rate we had in quarter 4 of 2003, that of last year.
Yeah.
Okay, I mentioned it, about 3.5.
Yeah.
Then suddenly it fell. You also remember that in February, the Monetary Policy Committee raised the MPR by 400 basis points.
Yes.
Did another 200 basis points by March. So part of that impact too, affected growth. Okay, so in my view, may be responsible too for the drop that we had in quarter in the first quarter.
All right. And Shay, in another slide, you said all forms of inflation increased the highest under Tinubu's government compared to all other governments since 2007.
Yeah.
Is it that they don't calculate well? Yeah.
It's so easy to see. This is just a moderate measurement of what people are feeling. This thing is not like a myth. It's not something that you need to be taught in your head. You can feel it. It's out there.
Transport. School fees.
Oh my God. School fees. Oh,
everything. NEPA or is it disco? Or
everything you touch, So, well, I don't know. I don't envy this administration.
But Tinubu said he asked for it, and you people gave him. He asked for it, so he shouldn't be pitied. Okay. So we want to actually see where he's not getting it right.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. So I think we know the cause. We know some of the causes. I mean, which is the what do you call it? The removal of the oil subsidy, but I think and the foreign exchange, of course that price instability there also, where the regulation of the foreign exchange market caused the dollar to just free flow, and they're not trying to manage it. But that whatever happens to the foreign exchange, the price of buying things from outside, since I can tell you
even tomatoes, the foreign exchange is now affected. As if we have.
Shouldn't really. It's not always the case. Here, for instance, we are an import-dependent economy. So if anything happens to the prices, the price of a dollar, it will have direct effect on most of the things we use in our everything. So, and when that happens, also when that inflation is transferred locally, even the person selling tomatoes to now say, okay, when I wanted to buy probably an handset to be making transactions, it's now almost double.
So they have to.
So they will increase their things. Apart from the ones happening from within, with probably insecurity, not making people go to the farm. Less people go to the farms. Climate change, all of that. Apart from the ones happening, even that. From outside also, we talk about the price of bread then. So the cost of wheat going up, we had other issues responsible for that, the Ukraine war and all of that. But the moment you do that, you make importing costly, even though it has to, in economics, usually there is no
correlation.
Professor is here. No, it's not always like right and wrong. It's always usually about right, good, better, best. It's not like everything he did, the steps were wrong, but it might just be that, maybe there's a better way. You get what you get. There's a better way to do it.
Prof, is it that Nigerians were actually deceived about 40 days here or thereabout? The dollar, before from top to bottom, and it was even ranked as the best currency in the world. But less than 2 weeks, or is it even 1 week? Now, the worst performing currency. What really happened? I don't know, but I feel you are an insider.
Yes, what really happened, of course, it's easy to see. Following the unification of exchange rates, we saw, Naira devaluation. And when the Cardoso was made governor, he said one of his main focus was to bring confidence in the market.
Yes.
And one of the ways by which that was going to be done was to clear backlogs, forex backlogs. So he started by clearing the forex backlogs, the valid ones. Okay. So that sort of brought confidence. And again, the part of his inflation targeting required that the MPR, was raised. He did that in February. So when that happened, okay, a lot of foreign portfolio investments came in. Okay, because they now saw interest rates were high and they needed to invest in government securities. So we had some inflows. And again, around that period too, we saw some accretion to reserves. Remember, we also borrowed money from Afrexim Bank and so on. So the liquidity we had in the system empowered the central bank to begin to intervene. Before central bank said it wasn't intervening, remember central bank said it was just going to allow market forces, willing buyer, willing seller. But they realized that that was not feasible. So they resumed sale of dollars to BDCs. Okay, so the liquidity that came into the system now, brought
But
it
what
down.
happened? They fully celebrated the gains. When the Naira was gaining, they were all over celebrating it. But when the tide turned again, no explanation for it. We're just guessing.
No, he did. In the last MPC meeting, if you listen to it,
but they have strangulated investors. Their businesses are falling off because they raise the
monetary policy rate.
Yes,
I agree with you. I also say my position about this whole issue of aggressive rate hikes is to say that it's not completely in the interest of the economy, given the fact that there are also other factors driving inflation. Okay, if inflation were completely a monetary phenomenon, completely something within the remit of the central bank, that it will make sense. But where you have, as I said, structural issues, supply side issues, okay, some people will even argue that the inflation we have today in Nigeria is more of cost push than demand pull, and that's that when you increase rates, you compound the cost push nature of the inflation, because number one, access to credit is reduced, cost of funds, businesses can't produce. So you now compound the situation on the one hand. But the central bank thinks because of the ways and means that went into the system before now, money supply is still high. They need to mop it up. But that's their bit. So I am not in support of aggressive rate hikes. I think the MPC is time they paused these rate hikes because of its adverse effect is having on output.
Okay, Shay, I'm on the same page with Prof, because you said here that the exchange rate has risen to its all-time high within 11 months of Tinubu's government. And elsewhere, you said the cost of exchanging $1 with Naira surged the highest during Tinubu's 1 year in office in comparison to past Nigerian presidents. I have been reporting since 1999.
Yeah.
But then, are you keeping tab on the implication of some of these things, like job losses, like how businesses are closing shop and all that?
Okay, let's keep in mind that for those years where even I think the first year of Jonathan, what we have there in that analysis is looking at within 11 months when they got into government, and there's another slide.
Okay.
There's another slide where this.
The cost of exchanging $1 with Naira surged the highest.
Yeah. So what we were just doing is to see very good.
Yeah, that is it.
Yeah. So we have just looked at the first 11 months of each of the past 3 presidents and then Tinubu compared to him. It's not magic. You see that. Okay, I think it was Yaradua period where when he took over in May, and so by June 2007 to April 2008, even the foreign exchange rate had fallen by 3.9 percentage points, but that of Tinubu rose highest. So these are just, but what is happening is that most of the times, those times, you see that there wasn't any deregulation. This one is happening not necessarily because of the kind of policy thrust of the if at some time if you decide to keep it like that way, what will just happen is that they will not just have to be defending it. It doesn't necessarily mean that the economy was necessarily performing better when you just peg the exchange rate to one rate. But the thing is that why Tinubu, I think, is doing this is because they don't have, especially at that time, they didn't even have sufficient liquidity to fund, to defend the naira. So there is nothing they could do but to do this. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is bad performance, or it's just talking about a policy that is at work. If another president comes in and they do the same thing, we can now say, okay, did this person manage this policy well, and this one did not manage it well? But this is just speaking to a policy change. Yeah.
All right, Prof, are you worried? Earlier in the day, I read Bismarck Rowane. You know, he said, that Nigeria has fallen from the 32nd largest economy in the world to 42nd, and that Ghana has overtaken Nigeria in gross domestic product growth. Could that be true?
Yes. Yeah. Well, in terms of in dollar terms, yes. Even the
do they export oil? Sorry.
No. If you look at GDP, if you look at the IMF, reports, it says that South Africa, I think, is number one now. That before the end of the year, South Africa is number one, and Nigeria will drop to the fourth.
Yeah, because he also said it here, not to quote you. He said our ranking among African countries has declined.
Fourth position.
Last year, our GDP growth was 2.98. Yes. South Africa's was 1.93. Kenya 4%, and Ghana 3.8. Inflation was 33% for us, 5% for South Africa, 5% for Kenya, and 25%.
So is the devaluation that has also resulted in the dip, in terms of our size in dollar terms? If you notice, that devaluation has caused the drop in the size of not just the country as a whole, but even in terms of the firms operating in Nigeria. The banking sector, for example, the banks today that we have in Nigeria, can't compete with the their counterparts even in South Africa or elsewhere, partly because of devaluation. Because in dollar terms now, their capital base has been reduced. It has now shrunk.
All right.
That's also why the central bank is saying they need to, they need to recapitalize.
All right. Shay, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to. There's something. Probably when you were reading it, the Prof did not hear the growth.
Okay.
So Prof is speaking to in dollar terms, that our GDP itself in dollar terms has reduced. But that statement, it's a bit dicey. That
the Rowane,
the way I think is the way they quoted him, that Ghana had overtaken Nigeria in gross domestic, not in GDP. No, it's GDP growth.
Yeah, GDP growth.
So let's be careful about that. It's not that I don't think in the next 20 years, I don't accept something happens. Ghana cannot meet Nigeria.
Even Lagos State.
But in terms of the speed, it's just trying to say that we have a truckload of fuel.
Yeah.
And we are driving a truckload of fuel. Joshua, the founder of Data, will always tell us to simplify things. So it's like Nigeria is having a truckload of fuel, and they are moving from Lagos to Abuja. Ghana is having a car just with a tank. So you now say, oh, this car is moving faster.
Yeah.
It's going to get to that destination faster.
Yes.
Yeah. But when you say who is carrying things, Nigeria, of course, you can't even compare Nigeria's GDP, but the rate at which we are growing it, that's what everyone.
But are you not worried that people in this government, they are more concerned about the books, the statistics, and even some of you, the economists and all that. When you now go to the villages, and even here in Abuja, go to Bega, you see real poverty. How can we bridge the gap? Because we have done arithmetic throughout this year, and Nigerians don't really understand what is happening. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Well, you see, I always say this. The economy is like a car, okay? You need to design it. A car, you design a car. If I ask you now, what's the most important components in a car? Of course, some person would say the engine. Okay, so for me, the engine of an economy, the only way you can have inclusive growth for people to begin to feel it is when you begin to, when you design an economy in such a way that you get the engine working. What is that engine? That engine is power. That engine is electricity. So we need to fix electricity, fix power, and then when you have the engine working, you also, of course, you worry about the car. Of course, must have tires. And these tires will now, in my own analogy, refer to the transport. We need to also fix, transport. But rail, okay, transport is very crucial. Okay, when you get that, done, okay, as you are doing that, you're also thinking of the fuel that the car will use. Again, that's not talking about the energy, the fuel, okay, petroleum that we use. We need to fix our refineries to be able to produce fuel here, and then you can also now begin to talk about if you want to drive a big car, then that's when you need to fix your iron and steel. You need to do something about your ICT. All right. Yeah. So by the time you do these things, you have provided an enabling environment. Okay. That person in the rural area, when he has power on his own, he can. Environment is there.
Have to be
there's power. There's transport. Yes, all those things. Enabling environment doesn't need to depend on the government. That's when you begin to talk about agriculture. You begin to talk about solid minerals. Okay, I see people drawing national plan. Even if you check our national development plan today, what you find as chapter 1 is GDP growth, manufacturing, agriculture. No, that's not the order.
Which does not resonate.
The order is these enablers I mentioned.
Okay.
You first of all get them, fix them, before you can talk about the agriculture.
But are the economic teams, because it's not just one. I don't know the number of economic teams we have. There was this one they put together. They were giving, was it 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Or thereabout. Have they submitted their report? I don't know. Prof, have they submitted, or we have forgotten them? I don't know. Is it that, Atiku said the whole lot about the Tinubu administration is guesswork? You agree?
Okay, yeah. Okay. No, I don't agree. It's guesswork. I think I might make the same mistakes.
Okay.
I might misread the room. I think what is happening is is that just like the professor said.
Yes.
We just believe, and you were alluding to. We just say statistics and all of that. So the moment you say GDP or GDP is increasing and all of that, but is this GDP, is it healthy? Is it an healthy GDP? So that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Is it a GDP that makes everyone earn? So it's a GDP that makes a few section of people earn more, while other people have nothing
So
to
what
do.
should they do as your final words? Because we have less than 1 minute to go.
All right. So what I think we need to go back to the basics.
Okay.
There's a little where we are now. It's like an emergency situation.
So we should go to real life.
Yeah.
All right. Honestly, Prof, let me have your final take. What should they do now?
Absolutely.
Is it that we should have brand new permanent economic team?
No.
Should they concentrate on now?
We already have. There's an economic management team. What they need to do.
But the one that we are given 2 weeks, we didn't hear from them. They say emergency. What will be done in 6 months? Now is it 2 months or thereabout?
I think they need to hit the ground running.
Okay.
Implementation is the watchword.
Okay.
How all these things are implemented, will matter. And as they are doing that, they should also have in mind the people at the grassroots.
Is there hope?
There is hope.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Uche Uwaleke, Professor of Finance and Capital Market, former Commissioner of Finance in Imoset, for coming to the program.
Thank you,
and my good friend, Sheyi Olufemi, Inside Lead, Dataphyte. Thank you very much for coming with all the graphs and all that to put context into our discussion. We have to have you some other time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And viewers, that's a wrap on today's package. We sincerely hope you found the conversation engaging and informative. And be sure to join Daily Politics Live, airing every weekday, and our special package on Friday, during which we open our telephone line for you to comment on national issues. Once again, I'm Hamza Idris. Bye-bye for now.